Hi everybody, this is Black Rhino Ranger, and in case you didn't subscribe to my channel or in case you don't know, I am an animator, cartoonist, and illustrator. When I was a kid, I always had a fascination with cartoons. I was so fascinated by it that I wanted to make my own cartoons someday. Around 2009, I managed to do a little something with animation, thanks to my Macromedia Flash 8. I know I should be moving on to Adobe Animate or Toon Boom, but I have trouble loading Creative Clouds recently, and I thought about spending the rest of this decade with Flash until all SWF servers get terminated. But I couldn't have done these arts without the help from fellow cartoonists, animators, and illustrators, who inspire me to make cartoon characters and animations. Which is why in this video, I'll be doing my top 12 cartoonists, animators, and illustrators. A few rules though. The artists have to be working on things that are 2D, which means I can't include 3D films like Pixar, DreamWorks, Blue Sky, Sony Animations, etc. And it has to be either books or animated cartoons, which means I cannot include video games, not even the 2D ones. And so, let's begin.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 12.
That's what you do to me.
Matt Groening. You may know him for creating The Simpsons and or Futurama. He's low on the list because the only thing I got from his designs are a few body parts. The eyes, the closed mouths, and the fingers. But since I frequently use those parts for my style of animations, I still count him as such on the list. I never gave up this style, and even if I want to go with other styles or character designs, I still savor the Matt Groening influence type for the ones I'm most comfortable with. He also proves that you don't need to be raunchy or offensive to be an adult cartoon. The Simpsons is made for adults, but it isn't restricted for them. Sometimes it has a PG rating, which indicates that kids can watch the show. I mean, why else do you think it's used on many modern-day Cartoon Network shows, including Adventure Time, Regular Show, Uncle Grandpa, and yes, even Teen Titans Go. Not sure why, but I digress. Yes, like everyone else, I think The Simpsons has overstayed its welcome, but hey, it's not as bad as modern-day Fairly OddParents or modern-day Family Guy, but even I prefer modern-day SpongeBob over modern-day Simpsons. At least post-sequel SpongeBob has some dignity. I have thought of a few ideas for shows aimed for adults but also allow kids to take a peek at, and The Simpsons and Futurama help me on that.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 11.
That's what you do to me.
Edd Goldberg. This is one of the most famous of modern-day 2D Disney animators. He animated the genie from Aladdin, Phil from Hercules, Louis from The Princess and the Frog. He directed Pocahontas and the Flamingo segment of Fantasia 2000, and he even supervised on the animation on Maui's tattoos from Moana. This guy is really talented, and he proves that 2D animation can still be a thing today. We don't always have to rely on CGI to make something good. He's also the reason why I got a Wacom tablet.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 10.
That's what you do to me.
Derek J. Wyatt. What shows do you remember him designing? The original Teen Titans, Ben 10 Omniverse, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, or probably my most favorite of the bunch, Transformers Animated. In fact, his designs of the Transformers is how I was able to draw better robots nowadays. Before 2009, I had trouble with drawing robots. They didn't look very good and a bit frustrating because of the amount of detail to remember. Early in 2009, I've been redrawing on Transformers animated characters, primarily their heads, and I've been drawing like that for robots ever since. I even made my own Transformer around that time. Over time, I would get better at drawing robots and Transformers from other franchises because of the simplicity of animated. I was able to draw G1 Transformers in a simple way. If it weren't for Transformers Animated or Derek J. Wyatt, I would still be struggling with drawing the Transformers and even robots in general.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 9.
That's what you do to me.
Quentin Blake. He is best known for illustrating several of Roald Dahl's books, including The Enormous Crocodile, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Twits, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, etc. When you look at some of his artwork, you might think it's kinda messy, but there is something charming about it despite the messiness. His work is still popular and he still continues to work even in his 80s. I know another artist from A Christmas Sale in Malaysia who does messy drawings of Santa Claus. At first I wasn't too fond of it, but then I remember Quentin Blake's art style, and I forgave him for that. This proves that your drawings can be messy as long as there's something charming about it.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 8.
That's what you do to me.
Dr. Seuss. Which of his stories have you read? The Cat in the Hat? The Grinch? The Lorax? Horton? I have so many stories from him, and many of his books have tons of imagination. Some animals are not even animals, just something Dr. Seuss made up. And even some of the other words are made up, like the Thneed. His settings are strange and surreal, but in a good way. His stories make me laugh and appreciate this guy as a kid, and even to date, his books still entertain me. It's too bad that unlike Roald Dahl, whose books had gotten some really good movie adaptations, even the ones that Dahl himself is not fond of, like the 1971 Willy Wonka film. The Dr. Seuss film adaptations have not gotten the best reputation. The only good Dr. Seuss movie in the 21st century on the top of my head is Horton Hears a Who.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 7.
That's what you do to me.
William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. You may know them for either creating Tom and Jerry for MGM or are the founders for Hanna-Barbera, the studio that brought us the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Yogi Bear, and even gave us some of the first Cartoon Network shows like Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, and the Powerpuff Girls. I remember seeing a lot of Hanna-Barbera as a kid. They were reruns. Looking back at the shows, they are very limitedly animated, but that's because they were some of the first animations to be broadcasted on TV. Often you would see just their heads tilting while they speak. That's what I tend to do for most of my animations. I either tilt or just keep redrawing the heads just to lip sync. Hanna-Barbera is more dialogue based and slapstick. The characters do have funny personality, and because of their simplicity, I do not feel ashamed to present my characters with simple designs and limited animation. Sure, they had not had the best repetition in the 1970s with shows like Goober and the Ghost Chasers and the Robotnik Stooges, but even then they had some crowning achievements like Josie and the Pussycat, having the first African-American female character to be one of the main characters in a cartoon. And let's be honest, whether you like him or not, without Scrappy-Doo, we probably wouldn't have What's New Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated, or a pup named Scooby-Doo, and we'd be stuck with the Scooby-Doo wannabe shows of the 70s. And Scooby-Dum, who was basically goofy, but worse. To be fair, he was tolerable in Laugh Olympics, which arguably is one of the best cartoons of the 70s. But still, Hanna-Barbera did leave a great legacy, especially for me. Also, haven't you noticed I've been using their sound effects for my animations? I've been doing it since 2010.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you
Number 6.
Daddy, what you do to me?
Joe Murray. This is the man who made my all-time favorite Cartoon Network show, Camp Lazlo, and it took me some time to realize as a kid that he was also the creator of the Nickelodeon show, Rocko's Modern Life. His cartoons are the reason why I wanted to do animal characters and make a world focusing on that. I am so glad he made Camp Lazlo and made a rhinoceros as one of the main characters. I mean, as much as I like this animal, look at my username. What does Black Rhino Ranger mean? I am getting tired of seeing them portrayed as the bad characters, especially for the fact that it's a critically endangered animal, for crying out loud. Show these animals some love, people! Forget that stupid myth about rhinoceros horns being medicine. We need these creatures to live for future generations. Anyways, I even have one of his books, and one of his advices is to simplify the character design, so you can remember how to redraw them. His quote was, "The simpler the better." I'm also glad he's reviving Rocko's Modern Life.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do. That's what
Number
you do.
5.
Daddy, what you do to me?
Lauren Faust. You may know her as either the wife of the creator of the Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and Wander Over Yonder. Or you may know her for creating the 4th generation of one of Hasbro's most popular franchises, My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. And in case you don't know, I am a brony ever since late 2011. You want to know my backstory of how I became a brony? Well, it all started in 2011. The first time I've heard about the 4th generation of My Little Pony was from a commercial about the Princess Celestia toy. No idea why it's pink. At first I had a disgust, but it didn't really bother me that much. One day I was just rewatching some old Looney Tune films and clips. I was also researching one of my favorite voice actors, Mel Blanc, the man of 1,000 voices, and the guy who originally voiced Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Sylvester, Tweety, Yosemite Sam, and many more. I was fascinated by the way he made his hiccups for the characters, like the drunken stork from Baby Bottleneck.
I'm mortified. I'm disgusted. I do all the work, and the fathers get all the credit. Umbriaco.
I also realized he did voice Gideon in Pinocchio until the dialogue was removed, except for the hiccups. In fact, I did use one of his hiccups in one of my animations. While I was watching that video of Gideon, on the video related list was some clips of My Little Pony with hiccups. That's when I first saw Spike, Rainbow Dash, and my favorite pony, Pinkie Pie. In late November 2011, after looking at Edd Gould's pony image, that's when I started researching My Little Pony, and I noticed that it was featured in Know Your Meme. I wasn't too sure how it got so many men into liking it at first, and I'm not too sure which was the first brony video I was watching, but I think it was the My Little Pony version of Pinky and the Brain. And here's a fun fact, because of that video, that's when I became a late fan of Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs. Never saw those shows as a kid. I just noticed them when I became a fan of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Afterwards, I started watching some pony music videos, with songs mostly by Weird Al Yankovic, and I did see some MLP'd trailers of movies like the ones from Transformers: Dark of the Moon. The next day, I decided to watch the episodes online. Afterwards, I was addicted. I never wanted to stop watching. That's how I started my brony fan career. The first image MLP related I made was this, and my first attempt to add MLP into my animations was this. I am so glad I came across the show because it helped me gain back my interest in female focus shows. Around 2006 and 7, there was a show that I did see as a kid. I'm not going to mention the name, but I'll give you a picture as a hint of what I'm referring to. Oh boy, do I hate that show. I remember hating so much that I wanted to stop watching female-focused shows. It made me want to quit shows like Kim Possible, Totally Spies, Juniper Lee, the Disney Princess movies, and it made me reluctant to check out any new ones like Princess and the Frog or Monster High. The other reason is that when I was a kid, I was bullied for liking something that focused on female protagonists, and it traumatized me. That's when I needed a show like My Little Pony in my life, because if it weren't for it, I would have had no faith in any more female-focused shows, media, or anything. Also, this franchise, along with Skylanders, gains back my interest in mythical creatures. If it weren't for them, I'd probably never bother with mythology or dragons or anything like that, and you might be seeing me do nothing but destroying them or making them ugly. And I'll just go with dinosaurs, mammoths, dodos, and other extinct animals, as well as just real life ones. It's all thanks to Lauren Faust that I want to draw female characters more frequently and not be afraid. I've been doing tons of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fan arts ever since that day. By the way, did you know that the way I draw Spyro was influenced by My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Spike's design?
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 4.
That's what you do to me.
Bruce Timm. You may know him, along with writer Paul Dini, for creating the DC animated universe, including Batman, the animated series, Superman, the animated series, and even the Justice League TV series. They're also the same people who created Harley Quinn. For me, he's what made me want to draw hot women. I think his design for Supergirl was my primary template for drawing women. Ever since that day, most of my females were inspired by him, even if I sometimes leave out the noses. Also, did you know that several fan arts of Giganta from Deviantart were the reason why I got into Deviantart in the first place, starting in 2009?
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 3. Darren Nefcy, better known as the creator of the currently popular Disney XD TV series Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Ever since I became a fan of the show, I've been dying to do some fan art on it. Last year, I got a few complaints from feminists saying that my design for women is too stereotypical and they demanded for some variety. That's when I needed a cartoonist like Darren Nefcy in my life. Similar to Lauren Faust, Darren's character designs are some of the cutest designs I have ever seen in animation. And unlike Bruce Timm's hot designs for girls, Darren Nefcy's design for girls allows a better usage for some wacky expressions on faces and have slapstick too. Also, when it comes to designing male characters, handsome is something I'm not good at. It might be because I keep reminding myself that I am a fat and pimply slob. The best I can do is draw cartoony male characters. With Darren's design for males, I have a better shot at this. Heck, the abs might be easy for me to draw. Beside her Star vs. the Forces of Evil art, Darren also has some funny and relatable comic strips on her websites. I may not just stop at just drawing Star vs. the Forces of Evil fan arts, I might give a shot at drawing some of my own characters in her style. I even drew some of the other media characters in the style of Darren Nefcy. Also, if I'm completely honest, I am so addicted to the show that sometimes I'd lose focus when I'm doing some work, especially on my animations. Sometimes my solution is, I know, I'll slip in the reference to Star vs. the Forces of Evil in my animation. Still, I really love Darren's work, and her work helps me gain a new perspective of making female characters. Although I still like to draw females Bruce Timm's style, Darren Nefcy's style is like taking a break from that.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's what you do.
Number 2.
That's what you do to me.
Tex Avery. He is one of the legendary animators for the Looney Tunes and MGM animated world. He's the same guy who made Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and many of the classic cartoon gags like the chases and defying the laws of gravity. He's also made the Red Hot Riding Hood shirt with the wolf eyes bulging. In fact, a lot of people are inspired by him, or inspired by those inspired by him. Tell me if not an ounce of Tex Avery's work was a slight influence for comedy slapstick shows like SpongeBob SquarePants, Animaniacs, The Genie from Aladdin, Ren and Stimpy, Edd, and Eddy, the list goes on. Most cartoons you've seen in the 1940s to even today have hints of inspiration from him. Some are great tributes, while others, like The Wacky World of Tex Avery, not so much. In case you're wondering, yes, I have been doing some weird expressions on my animations lately, primarily on my Dragonstein episode. That's because I've been taking notes from Tex Avery, and I tend to go with more exaggerations and expressions. Since most of his works requires going off model, this is why I never use model sheets, because I like to vary on my ways of drawing the same character, and see if the visual gags are a hit or miss. And I love to explore my ways of drawing.
That's what you do. That's what you do. That's what you do to me.
Here are some honorable mentions. Walt Disney, the man behind the Disney Company. Let's face it, he's every cartoonist's inspiration, and even the people who aren't directly inspired by him were inspired by cartoonists who were inspired by him. I didn't put him on the list because he might be a bit too predictable, and I have read a bit of history that he is picky on some of his works, and a lot of people question his pickiness, primarily the woman who made the original Mary Poppins story. John Kricfalusi, the creator of Ren and Stimpy. Like Tex Avery, his art heavily relies on off-model and exaggerations. He had a rule not to draw the same expressions over and over again. I am a person who's into gross out, which is one reason why I like Ren and Stimpy, Billy and Mandy, and Flapjack, and sometimes I do like to experiment with some gross out humor. Why isn't he on the list? Well, I may be into gross out, but not a lot of my fans are, so I try to keep it minimal. And just because I like gross out doesn't mean I like everything that's gross. I mean, look at the Garbage Pail Kids movie, or worse, Mega Babies. Richard Williams. He's the lead animator for Who Framed Roger Rabbit and the unfinished Thief and the Cobbler film. And man, do I love his smooth and fluid animation. Why is he not on the list? Well, I might be an animator, but I'm never able to animate this movie. I do have one of his books though. Sonia Leong. She's an anime manga artist who visited my school in England, and that very moment I decided to take that class and do some anime drawings. Oddly enough, she is a British resident born in Malaysia, and I am a Malaysian resident born in England. Why isn't she on the list? Well, is an unpopular opinion. I'm not into anime or manga. But there might come a time when I decide to poke fun of anime or ask someone to animate one of my scripts in an anime style, or at least anime influence. Spoiler alert. I also have a book from her. Danny Antonucci, the creator of Edd, and Eddy. I adore his squiggly style of animation. It makes the characters look more alive even when standing still. Helps in case you have trouble redrawing more and more times while the characters are standing still, just to give them some more breaths. Why isn't he on the list? I haven't done this technique often. Maxwell Adams. What shows has he made? Evil Kankane, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, the pilot for Underfist. He's one of the few people who's managed to do gross out right, just like John Kay. He's what got me into drawing a lot of monsters living amongst humans. Why isn't he on the list? It might be because his art tends to vary a lot. Winsor McKay. He made Lil Nemo and Gertie the dinosaur. He was the inspiration for Walt Disney. And he had this phrase, I just couldn't stop drawing anything and everything, and that's something I can relate. Unfortunately, it's not enough for me to include him on the list. Tony Ross, the illustrator for many books of my childhood, including the Little Princess series. His Little Princess stories are what kick-started my interest in media that focus on female characters. The streak was broken thanks to a certain show, but it came back again thanks to My Little Pony. Why isn't he on the list? It's only his stories that got my interest and not the art. It's not that I don't like his work. Hell, I really enjoyed them as a kid. It's just that his art style isn't spectacular to me. and it kind of looks more like a tamer version of Quentin Blake's art style. Roger Hargreaves, the creator of the Mr. Men series. His book series is very successful, and yet the characters are very simple. He shows that you don't need to use complex designs to make your book series a success. You can make them simple as long as there's something charming about it, like the writing. Why isn't he on the list? Well, his character designs may be a bit too simplistic at times, and you could make an argument that the Mr. Men series is one of the many inspirations for a certain animation studio to make a certain 90-minute advertisement. Genndy Tartakovsky, the man who created Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, and directed the 2003 Star Wars Clone Wars and Hotel Transylvania series. He was part of my childhood, and he continues to entertain me even today. Since Dexter's Lab and Hotel Transylvania are comedies, while Samurai Jack and Star Wars Clone Wars are mainly serious, and they were made by one man, it shows that one man can do a variety of genres when it comes to animation. Craig McCracken, creator of Cartoon Network's Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and Disney's Wander Over Yonder. Much like Dr. Seuss, he is capable of making beings that can be anything. Monsters, aliens, imaginary friends, etc. If only the people behind Powerpuff Girls 2016 were just as talented, if not more talented, to pull a stunt like that for their show instead of making everything look closer to other Cartoon Network shows like Clarence and We Bare Bears. Personally, I'm more inspired by his wife than him. And finally, Yue Huang, the same guy who designed the Skylanders. And if you've been subscribing to me since late 2011, you know that I've been flooding my DeviantArt gallery with Skylanders related art. Why isn't he on the list? Well, he's a character designer for a 3D video game, and this is for the 2D designers, animators, cartoonists, and illustrators. And now, for the number one candidate for this list.
You know there's something quite unusual about you, but I can't exactly seem to put my finger on it. You make me, you make me, you make me. That's what you do to me. You make that's me, what you do. You
Number one.
That's what you do to me.
Edd Gould. He is the guy who created Edd's World. He is the biggest influence to all of my animations on YouTube, DeviantArt, and Newgrounds ever since 2009. For those who don't know about Edd's World, it's a comedy show about three characters, Edd, Tom, and Matt. There was also a fourth named Tord until 2008 when he left the series. These characters are based on their real-life counterparts. The show was really funny, and it's the reason why I decided to do animations on Newgrounds, DeviantArt, and YouTube. The more I watch Edd's World, the more I want to do animations. Every new episode gets funnier and funnier as I watch him. However, in 2012, the show's creator, Edd Gould, passed away at age 23, which is my current age, due to a combination of leukemia and a fever. Because of his death, Tom became in charge of the series. However, despite trying really hard, he wasn't fully confident about being the showrunner. After the latest episode of Edd's World, The End, which is a two-parter, Tom left Edd's World, leaving Edd's family and Matt to be in charge. From this day forth, Matt is the only member of the original Edd's World cast to remain in Edd's World production. He's currently doing illustrations for the comics of Edd's World. Now, it's not known whether the next Edd's World animated episode is going to be made. According to the people behind it, the franchise will continue in comic book form, but I'm not sure how to feel about the new episodes of Edd's World, since Edd died and Tom and Tord have left. But I still have faith, since the people behind the franchise are Edd's family and Matt. I might have been a fan of Newgrounds and Deviantart and had a ton of cartoons and comics and other creators who inspired me to be a cartoonist and animator, but never has anyone been the biggest influence of my life than Edd Gould. He is number one on my list because his animations changed my life. Sure, Lauren Faust and Darren Nefcy's cartoons also changed my life, but that was during 2011 and 2017. Edd Gould changed my life since 2009. And I was distraught knowing the fact that he died. And because of that, I really thought he should be number one on the list because he may be gone, but he left a really great legacy in my heart. If it weren't for him, imagine what my animations would have been like. One more thing, Edd. Rest in peace. Enjoy your Coca-Cola filled swimming pool in heaven. And those are my top 12 animators, cartoonists, illustrators, and character designers. Honorable mentions included. What are your artists' influence? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video.